Oh, that last video sure was exhausting, wasn't it? I'll keep this one short. Welcome to part 5 of the Bare Bones basic tutorial for LinuxCNC. In this video, I want to go over the basic network settings and little tricks and things that you may have to do to get LinuxCNC up and running that you may or may not find available online. So if you're working from the official Debian 10 install from the LinuxCNC website, the first thing you're probably going to want to do is you're going to want to remove the Wicd network manager that comes with the LinuxCNC package. The Wicd network manager does not allow you to have simultaneous Wi-Fi and wired connections. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to install the network manager. To do that, simplest way is just to go to terminal emulator. I already have it on my computer, but I'll show you. First thing you'll want to do is sudo apt-get install network-manager-gnome. And what that'll do is it will install the network manager with the graphic user interface. And that will give you the advanced network configuration GUI that shows you your wired connection and your Wi-Fi connections. Once you install a network manager, you're going to want to go into your terminal again and just type in sudo apt-get remove wicd-gtk. And what that will do is it will remove the Wicd network manager, and it'll use the network manager that we installed as the preferred method. Once it's uninstalled, you'll reboot your computer, and this little broken icon will go away. The next thing you're going to want to do is go back into your terminal and do a sudo nano, and we're going to go to /etc/NET, hit the tab key, and that will backfill the network manager folder. And from there we type in NET, hit the tab key again, and that will fill in networkmanager.conf. If the tab key does not work, you can just type in this full extension here, hit the enter key, we'll put in our password, and now we'll cursor down to this section here in this network manager configuration file that says if up down. And under managed, if we change from false to true, so in this case I could just cursor over and I'll just retype it, because the original setting is false, but we'll make it true. To save it, hold down your control key and hit the letter S, and it'll say wrote 5 lines. Hit the control key, or hold the control key and press the letter X, and it will exit out of the nano. And nano is just a terminal command text editor. Once you save that file, if you restarted your computer already and you want to reboot your network manager, just type in sudo service network-manager restart, and that will restart the network manager, and it should come back up with all of the necessary information. There's a little bug on my computer where my network manager didn't work for a little while up in my taskbar here. Then it started working again, and I reinstalled Wicd to film this video, and now my icon is broken again. But if I go to Applications, Settings, Advanced Network Configuration, we can see right here that my Wi-Fi is connected, and I have an Ethernet connection called LinuxCNC. What you'll want to do is you'll want to create an Ethernet connection. Sometimes you'll see one that says if up down after you do the if up down managed equals true. But you'll want to make an Ethernet connection standalone by selecting Ethernet, hit the plus sign. Under choose a connection type, we'll pick Ethernet. Under Ethernet connection, we'll choose the drop-down menu for device and choose our device. If you have more than one Ethernet port, you might have more than one option, just so you know. Under the connection name, we'll give it a name. Under our IPv4 settings, we'll choose manual method. Under addresses, we'll hit add. Now, depending on how you have your PNC comp set up, the standard address that gets assigned to the Mesa card will be 192.168.1.121 in the case of 7i76E. If you move the W3 jumper on the 7i76E into the up position, it gives the card the assignment of 10.10.10.10. So you would put that into your card address when you make your setup. The 10.10.10.10 address assignment simply verifies that you won't step on any toes, essentially, with your Wi-Fi connection, because the standard Wi-Fi connection, when you go to the store and you come home with your Netgear router and you're happy hunky-dory, plug it in, connect to it from your laptop, the assignment that it's typically going to give you is 192.168.1.1. And the .1.121 designation for the Mesa card tends to kind of hammer up the Wi-Fi connection a little bit. That's why they give you the two options. And 10.10.10.10 is more of an internal IP address setting. So if you use this address, you won't have to worry about any conflicts from the Wi-Fi or the outside world. So with that being said, under address we can type 10.10.10.2 for the IP address assignment for the laptop. We're not assigning the IP address assignment from the Mesa card. We're assigning the IP address assignment for the computer itself. And the .10 is set up in the PNC Conf Wizard. You don't want to use .1 because that's usually an address for a gateway. You don't want to use 10 because that's the address for the card itself. You could use 2 or you can use 11, whichever you prefer. 2 seems to work well for me. Under Netmask, you want to put 255.255.255.0. And then under Gateway, leave that blank. Everything else, leave blank. If you put a gateway, you won't be able to use the Wi-Fi and wired connection simultaneous trick. So just leave that the way it is and hit save. It'll create the connection. You plug in your Ethernet cable. Usually you'll see the icon up here do a little dance. If you want to test connectivity in terminal, you can do ping 10.10.10.10. And in my case, it's not going to work because I'm not connected to a Mesa card, but that's how you would check for a data connection. You'd see a feedback over here that lets you know that you have connectivity. Once you have that connectivity, and you've created your configuration under PNC Conf, if you have a desktop icon, you can just double click on it and it'll fire right up. If you don't have a desktop icon but you created the configuration, you can go under CNC, LinuxCNC, And then when the main window pops up under My Configurations, you should be able to see the configuration that you created with PNCConf inside of here. So if you didn't get the desktop shortcut, you would click on your configuration drop-down, click on the actual configuration, and select Create Desktop Shortcut, and that will give you the shortcut to get to your machine from your desktop. Another thing that I just want to reiterate is when you do your latency test, you'll see right here mine isn't really the greatest thing right now. But if I go into Run Program, GLX Gears, and I open up a couple of GLX gears, if I move them around, if I surf the internet, grab the corner of one and just open and close it repeatedly, you'll see that the servo thread tends to spike up a little bit. You'll want to run 5 or so GLX gears at the same time. And again, you want to bog down your system. So right now I'm recording video and I'm yanking this thing around and it's giving me my jitter number of 91,394. If that's not a number that you're entirely happy with and you want to try and get it down, it's actually going to be the interval that you'll put into your setup file, but this number here is still pretty high. If you want to try to get that down, what you can do is a couple of things. You can go to Terminal Emulator. If you type in latency histogram -- no base, you'll get this little readout here that is basically the latency test in a histogram form. Over here it shows you your max jitter, and then there's a shortcut button that will load as many GLX gears as you want. And then from there you can do the same test and see if your numbers look any better there. In this case it doesn't really look that much better. So what I want to do then, I should have pointed out that my computer has a 2-core processor, and right now I'm not running any CPU isolation. I run into an issue with CPU isolation where when I'm doing multi-threading tasks, like for example, if I'm recording video and it's processor intensive, I'll run into an issue where when I run CPU isolation, the video and audio get a little, like, they get messed up. So you want to be careful with doing this, but what you can do is you can isolate your CPU, which gives you better servo thread figures, but you'll want to make sure that whenever you're doing any kind of processor type tasks that don't require you to run your CNC machine, you'll want to put this back to no ISO CPU. But if you're just using your computer for running a CNC machine or surfing the web, you won't run into any issues by doing what I'm about to show you. I did show it in one of the other videos, but another way to do it would just be to go sudo nano etc default grub. And that will load the grub file in the Nano terminal text editor. The last time I showed it with Genie, because I like using Genie. So you can do sudo genie, and then you can put in the extension if you know it, etc/default/grub. And you don't have to hunt it down. So that's just a little bit of an easier way to get to this file. Under the grub underscore command line underscore Linux underscore default, where it says quiet, we can cursor over. We can type in isolcpus equals, in my case I have 2 cores. Core 1 would be number 0, and core 2 would be number 1. So isolcpus equals 1. I will Control S to save, Control X to exit, and do a sudo update grub with a dash in between. Once you see that it's done, you can reboot your system, and then that will give you the CPU isolation, and we can run our test again. So I'm going to do that right now, and I'm going to show you the difference in numbers, but I'm not going to say anything because it's probably going to mess up the audio on the recording. So I'll be right back. So you can see there the latency numbers were a little bit better, and after a couple of reboots my icon came back. So this is what the network manager in the taskbar will look like when you click on it. It shows you your available networks, and it shows you the ones that you're connected to currently. So those are the 2 tricks that you'll want to keep in the back of your pocket for the time being when you first get your system installed and you want to configure your network. Pretty simple once you install the proper software and get rid of the Wicd network manager. That does not work very well. Always use just the regular network manager install. Go to the network configuration page, change the if up down. That gives you the simultaneous wired and Wi-Fi connection. If your latency numbers are really high, mess around with the isolcpus, and take into consideration that if you have more than 2 cores, if I open this back up, etc default grub, if you have more than 1 CPU, or more than 2 CPUs rather, if you have more than 2 cores, you would say isolcpus equals, say we have a 4-core CPU, we can do 1, 2, 3 to isolate CPU number 1 only. You could do equals 2, 3 to isolate cores 1 and 2, or you can do equals 3 to isolate cores 1, 2, and 3, and core number 4 will be separate. Again, 0 is core number 1 because computers. So when I say core number 1, I actually refer to number 0. Core number 2 is going to be 1. Core number 3 is 2. Core number 4 is 3. But because I'm not doing any isolcpus, because I like my video editor, I'm just going to leave that the way it is. I'll close it out. And I will end right here. Again, sorry for the lengthy configuration video. I have to get around to timestamping that one. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and check out my Amazon affiliate links. I also now have a Patreon, so if you want to throw me a couple of cents for a cup of coffee to stay awake while I'm editing these videos, or find extra time in my non-sleeping hours to record more live content, or hell, help fund some of the things I've got to buy in order to do these videos. Feel free to shoot me a penny at the link in the description. If not, no big deal. I'm only throwing it out there just in case. Everybody else is doing it, so I figured, what the hell. But again, thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.